What's up, guys? It's KB. Make sure you subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. Click the bell icon down below so you don't miss a single video from us. And thanks for tuning in to another video from Underground Sports Philadelphia. Now let's get into it.
Philadelphia, baby, you're going to love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
What is going on, OTB Nation? Welcome into episode number 325 of the award-nominated, honorably mentioned, number 9 NCAA ranked, viewable on YouTube, and now gearing up for another year of Premier Lacrosse League action. Outside the Box podcast, the official lacrosse podcast on the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network. It's KB and Deej, both coming at you from Underground Studios. It has been a long time since we have talked to the people, and a lot has happened since then, both good, bad, and in between. We will get into everything that has occurred since Deej came into South Jersey, Philly, all that good stuff. We will preview the upcoming opening weekend for the 2024 PLL season. We will recap Final Four weekend in the college game. And guess what, guys? We have a new segment this PLL season coming to you every single week. The man, the myth, the legend at NeubyTalks. Be sure you're following him on the socials. Is joining the boys every single week for what we are tentatively calling weekly winners. We're probably going to think of a more creative and more quote-unquote outside-the-box type of name for the segment. But Dan is going to be joining us every single week to talk gambling picks with the PLL. He is one of the best in diagnosing the PLL betting markets, and we are stoked to have him joining OTB this season and hopefully beyond as well. That segment will be coming on later in the show around our pick segment, so definitely stay tuned for that. But before we get into everything on this episode, make sure you guys are following us on the socials across the board at OTB LaxPod. Follow Deej on Twitter at SCS_NextGreat. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Subscribe to the podcast feed on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts in audio form. Those two in particular, because we get that data from those two outlets in particular. And it really helps us continue to grow, helps more people find the show, and allows us to continue doing more fun and dope stuff with and for you guys. We have a lot of things we want to accomplish this PLL season, and the more you subscribe, the more likely those things are to happen. So keep subscribing on Apple and Spotify. Subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel, youtube.com/@undergroundsportsphiladelphia. That is where you get full video episodes of this show every single week. You get full video episodes of every show on our network, clips, shorts, live streams, original video content. It's all on our YouTube channel. We are currently at 803 subscribers. I say, Deej, before All-Star break, let's get to 900. Let's get to 900 before PLL All-Star break in about a month. I think that's doable, month and a half, give or take. Keep subscribing to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. We're on that road to 1K. And all of our summer vlogs that we end up doing when we're out on the road covering the PLL, and we have one coming up that we just have to piece together and mishmash together because we were doing it a lot on our phones because you can't bring a camera into Lincoln Financial Field, are going to be on the Outside the Box podcast YouTube channel, youtube.com/@OTBLaxPod. So be sure to subscribe over there as well. And, of course, guys, get your merch at phiapparel.co, the official merch partners of Underground Sports Philadelphia. If you want to stand out in the crowd this PLL season and look your best rocking the official merch of Outside the Box, go to PHI Apparel Company. If you're a Philly sports fan, they've got you covered to the nines to rep the Phillies, the Eagles, the Flyers, the Sixers, the Union, and hey, maybe we cook up some Water Dog stuff in collaboration with the PLL. Who knows? Remains to be seen. And, of course, they've got Philly-centric merch. There's a hilarious shirt, Deej, that I have to get. It's a play on OnlyFans, but it's PHANS, and instead of the lock in the logo, it's the Liberty Bell. Need to get my hands on that bad boy. Go to phiapparel.co so you can stand out in the crowd, and when you go to checkout, use our code Underground for 10% off your merch orders. Most effective and direct way to support everything we're doing here at OTB and Underground Sports Philadelphia. When you guys buy merch, it really helps out with DJ and I traveling for the PLL. helps us book hotels, helps us with gas money, all of that kind of stuff. So when you buy merch, it's directly benefiting the show. So get your merch, phiapparel.co, code underground, 10% off your merch order. Deej, just like the Masters, it's a tradition like any other. This time of year, me having car issues.
Yep, it's expected, but it's not going to stop anything, and it never does. You know, you look back, 3 years now? 3 years. So go back to 2021. You had your own issues getting up to Boston. I had my own issues leaving Boston, and that's where the connection all started. 2022.
We were in the clear.
We were in the clear for this weekend. I think you ended up having issues going up to Fairfield or something.
It was just lingering issues.
Yeah, it was something
with the
that
air.
like, oh man, we ain't gonna talk about that. That's a whole separate issue that we're not gonna deal with, which we don't have to deal with at all this weekend. That's amazing. But yeah, 2022 kind of I think you had issues on a weekend I wasn't there, so it didn't bother me too much. But obviously,
that's when I got stuck in traffic going to Long Island.
And
that
then
was just a mess.
2023 this weekend. We had the blown tire on the restricted highway and had to watch most of the first game, all of the first game from a Walmart
joint
court.
Subway Auntie Anne's in a Walmart.
Yeah, and then the rest in the car on the way up to Albany. And then this year,
it happened before it.
I say you couldn't even pick me up from the airport before things went wrong.
Car battery started flickering vigorously as I merged onto 42, which if you're from the South Jersey, Philly area, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But there is a major highway in South Jersey called Route 55. You have to merge onto Route 42 to go to Philly. I was merging onto 42, and the check engine light started blinking vigorously. My car started slowing down. It is now at a shop as we had to wait like 48 hours because Deej was at the airport. His flight landed at 11:04 p.m. And my car was stranded. CFO Margie came to the rescue. We stand CFO Margie in this house and any house. We waited around for the tow truck, and the tow truck said that they did the job at 12:56 p.m. They never came, guys, and we were sitting around until about 3 a.m. Before we got a chance to go and pick up DJ following his 3.5 hours of people watching at the Philadelphia International Airport, plugging the pod. I called him. He was doing a whole sales pitch on the pod, which was great. And looking at the numbers, I'm hoping that at least one of those people are one of our new subscribers on Spotify. Car is at the shop, though. It got towed the next day. And CFO Margie brought us to Final Four weekend. We missed all day Saturday, but we got there for the championships on Sunday and Monday. But we're renting a car for the first time. And I guess the one benefit right now outside of, we're safe, obviously, is this weekend we'll have air conditioning driving up. It sucks to not have your own car because you're in limbo there, but we're fine, we're safe, and we will be in Albany with a whole host of characters this weekend. And why not? Let's get into this weekend. We spent the whole day today, as we record this on Thursday night, in press conferences with coaches and players, which is always a delight, always a treat to be a part of, and got a lot of interesting nuggets from these press conferences today as we get set for year 6 of the PLL. Absolutely insane to think about, and we've been covering the league since its inception and year 1. But a lot of interesting nuggets. We got to speak to every single coach, a ton of players, both new and familiar faces. What stood out to you from the press conferences, whether it was a particular thing from a coach, a player, news we got? I think we gathered a lot of information from a lot of people today.
One of the biggest things for me was I went in, obviously we talked about it well before when they announced, the homecoming weekends and then playing 2 games in a weekend. Would it be, back to three-day weekends? You get a game on Friday, game on Saturday, and, everybody plays and that kind of thing. It ended up being bye weeks, which made me question, why are they doing back-to-backs? But they're going to be expanding the roster for that homecoming weekend for that team, so they have an extra 2 or 3 guys available to them to use in that second game to have fresh legs. That was one of the big things I pointed out in everybody has been blown away by their rookie classes so far. That's kind of something that not only myself but a lot of people kind of brought up and talked about was, how are rookie guys fitting in with the team? How do they look in training camp? A lot of guys hadn't made it out yet because of NCAA tournament and team trips and that such. But from what has been at camp, guys are excited, coaches are excited, and we're going to get a great product on the field. More specifically, Nakai and the Redwoods were literally over the moon about their rookies, saying how well they fit into the team, the energy they brought, the willingness to learn, eyes and ears perked, but also just coming in and grinding and looking to take a spot rather than just fitting in where the team has them. I think that's huge, and Nakai even said he feels like this is the best class they've had, since his time there, which this is his third year.
Yeah, and he was just talking newcomers in general, the new guys from free agency, the rookie class, guys that are technically rookies, but were not drafted rookies per se. You look at somebody like Aron John, you look at somebody like Alex Simmons, who Nat mentioned. Both have fantastic personalities, and he's very excited for both of those guys. And yeah, Mike Pressler kind of breaking news to a lot of people about how game day rosters for that homecoming team are going to be expanded to 21 from 19. I think was the most overlooked and kind of just like brushed to the side thing we heard in the press conferences today. That's such a huge game changer for those homecoming teams, whether it's from injury, fatigue, matchup-wise. If this weekend in particular, if Mike Pressler likes a matchup better by putting another player into the lineup versus one that was active for game one, that's an ultimate 4D chess move that these coaches can play. It's going to be intriguing to see how that plays out throughout the remainder of the season. One of my big takeaways, I'm absolutely going to love Coach Bill Tierney. What an absolute treat and treasure and delight he was in the press conference today. Not only did he self-humble himself and say that he's become a better coach over the last 4 days by coaching training camp in the PLL, but he also dunked on all of the people questioning why he cut Alex Stathakis. And that, to me, was like, okay, he's meant to coach in Philadelphia, because he was not afraid to call out people who were questioning his tactics and was like, I'm going to stand on my business. I know why I made these moves. And I was like, okay, not that I didn't respect him before, but my respect levels for Bill Tierney after he dropped that nuke on all of his haters and doubters skyrocketed tenfold. He's an absolute joy. It seemed like the two players that were in with the Water Dogs were Kieran McCardle and Ethan Walker. Obviously, Ethan has that relationship with Bill Tierney, but it seems like Kieran has really taken to Coach Tierney as well. I know he was a big Andy Copeland guy, but it's good to see your team captain not missing a beat with a brand new leader in the fold, and it seems like those two have a great relationship as well. And I'm very excited for this Water Dogs team, guys. They are one of the most, if not the most, close-knit group we have seen consistently year over year since winning that championship, and probably even coming off of their 2021 success. But they truly just get it, and they are a team that is going to be a force and a wagon. And Coach Tierney mentioned that too. He's coached teams up from where they were in the depths and trying to get them back to where they should be as a program. And then he said, I'm taking over a championship contending roster now and trying not to mess it up. This team is going to be so much fun all year long. Coach Tierney is going to be an absolute joy in these press conferences. I think win, lose, or draw, even though there's no draws in the PLL, I'm excited for year one of Coach Tierney coaching the Water Dogs.
I mean, the guy is known to just do absolutely amazing things with teams, and just we were talking about it not too long ago, just his demeanor. He's got the stoic old guy, know a bunch about everything kind of look to him and vibe, but then you talk to him and he is the most humble, down-to-earth, hilarious, that old guy that has all the old stories that you want to listen to. And then he's so knowledgeable in the game and how to put teams together. I think that's a bigger thing. He touched on it as well, as like the GM side is a huge part to, being a coach in the PLL.
Pressler touched on that too, saying the GM role is the most important role in the league.
Yeah, and just, being able to actually put a team together and help the locker room to come together and then put guys in the right spots at the right time and calling the right plays to help his team be successful is something that Bill is second to none to. Is, as we've heard 1,000 times, the dude just knows how to win. 7 national championships at the NCAA level is not easy, and then to do it as the only team out on the West Coast is even harder. So he knows how to defy all odds and bring greatness, which is what the city of Philadelphia is used to.
Yeah, I'm excited for year 1 of Bill Tierney. I also just enjoy how the end of last season, we didn't know how Chris Bates felt about us until, we were out and about hanging in the streets of Philadelphia, and we see Coach Bates, and he kind of just stops us in our tracks and says, "You guys are the best at what you do. Don't stop what you're doing. I love what you guys do." And I was like, okay, Coach Bates really fucks with us. And just seeing the smile he gets on his face whenever we ask a question is like, it brings joy to my heart. And it was great. I talked about this a while ago, a couple months ago, when I saw him at the Wings game when he was the alumni of the game. And just seeing how happy he was to see me there was really cool. And I love this budding relationship we have with Chris Bates. It's very fun, and it's funny how he is one of the original 6 coaches, and it's taken us like kind of this long to kind of break down that wall with him. But I truly enjoy Chris Bates so much. And I think what he said, I asked him about Piper Bond and Connor Marr kind of being the pups last year, and there's a couple new short sticks. Your guy, Mr. Peterson, on the squad. You got some new pups around. How is it going to translate with these guys kind of now being those leaders at that positional group? And he said they feel like veterans already. He feels like Champ Series really allowed those two to showcase their leadership skills in a different way because of the condensed roster and everything. I think we're in for a treat this year again, and this is even without Latrell Harris starting the year for the Archers with that short stick D midi group for the Archers.
Yeah, I didn't want to touch on it yet. I kind of want to let him get a game or two under his belt with Bo, and I just can't wait to, kind of see Bo do his thing out there and then pop off and take advantage of the short field. I've touched on it a few times, but I'm not sure like everybody knows. Bo spent his first 4 years of college lacrosse playing offensive midfield at Princeton. So the guy can ball on the offensive side. He can shoot. He can dodge and get open space. He knows how to work on that side of the field. And then he goes and spends a year at Michigan. They convert him to D-mid, and he's an absolute stud there, automatic lockdown. And he also did the same thing of using that transition role and scoring multiple goals and was basically a one-man clear for most of the year for the Wolverines. So for him to be coming into the PLL and playing on a shorter field, he's definitely going to be able to take advantage of that. I want to be able to get him, have him showcase that skill and then, ask Bates about that and get, some witty response from him about how good of a guy, Bo is, because that's always how Bates is. It's always a cool, witty response that normally gets a chuckle out of someone. But it's always great and fun talking to Bates, and I'm just excited to see what he's got cooking for, the defending champs this year.
And I think one of the big takeaways that doesn't necessarily get showcased per se, but we get the insight being part of the media and everything with Andy Towers and our relationship with AT is, as seamless as possible. We love AT and he loves us. I asked him about, something he's brought up in the past where they have a philosophy on that chaos team and that coaching staff that they want to have game day film on every single player that's in their organization. And I think that's smart. I love that approach from AT, and it's really benefited them when it comes to matchups, when it comes to seeing which player thrives in what situations. And they're kind of alongside shifting away from that Canadian box influence. They're kind of shifting away from that now as well because they got a full training camp with everybody. Josh Byrne finally had a PLL training camp for the first time. You had Ian McKay in training camp for the first time. And to be able to have a week of in-person film almost with these guys and seeing how they compete, seeing how they mesh with one another. I think that's a benefit moving forward for this Chaos team, where that's one thing they don't have to worry about now during the regular season as much as they have in the past, and can kind of focus on just the matchup approach and who they're playing and what they want to do to accomplish to get wins. And I think that's going to take a lot of pressure off the shoulders of, Panetta, Hanford, and Andy Towers when it comes to, the coaching approach for this team. And I think it also takes a lot of pressure off of the GM, Andy Towers, as well, where he doesn't have to worry too much about the, over-analysis of his roster during the season, and finally got a full training camp with the group of 30 and now 25 guys that they wanted.
There's no team that's had more turnover on the offensive end than Chaos. So I think that's going to throw a lot of teams off, which is going to give Chaos a chance to kind of explode out in the first part of the season, especially as they're playing teams in their conference for the first time. They can probably sneak a few wins because guys are just going to be shocked. Like, that's what you get with the other 7 teams in the league, and maybe not so much with Outlaws, but that's kind of always been a toss-up with Chrome, is you don't know what you're going to get on the offensive end when you go and play them. You know what you're getting with everybody else. Their offenses are very similar or the exact same as what you've seen over the last few years with a few added parts. Chaos is going to be something completely new. They're abandoning their system completely. So I think that's going to catch some teams off guard, and they'll have an opportunity to kind of work in that and maybe steal a few games early that are going to be kind of lower scoring games, depending on, how things work out. But realistically, the star of Chaos, and it has been since year one, is the defense in place. So that's the standing point. They didn't talk too much about that because there wasn't a ton to talk about there.
Other than Jared Newman asking Shane Knobloch to sit on his lap.
Right, there's that. And then they said that Jack Posey has come in and just been absolutely phenomenal. And CJ Costabile continues to be CJ Niner and who he is, and actually came in and deboed his spot. And they said it was going to be a total battle, and he came in and was like, battle where? This is my spot, and it has been. It's going to stay that way. So I'm excited to see CJ Costabile continue to do his thing, and hopefully for Jack Posey to crack this roster and see how he fits in down low with guys like Rowlett, Newman, and Bowen.
CJ Niner just sounds like a Star Wars droid.
It kind of does.
That's
how he plays.
We need somebody to draw up a Star Wars droid of CJ Costabile, just CJ Niner, 100%. And and Jared also brought it up in the presser as well. He said he's never been more excited for a training camp than he has been for this year. They have rookies that are going to put up highlight reels, and Jared Newman is a very he shows a lot of emotion. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He goes to battle every single week, and that's both on and off the field. He wears that emotion on his sleeve, and to see the genuine glisten in his eyes and the smile that he had talking about those rookies, Jared Newman might be poised for a huge year at the defense spot. And if he goes on a run, it wouldn't shock me if we see Jared Newman nominated for a Defensive Player of the Year award this year.
I mean, that's the guy should be in the conversation every year. I think what ends up dropping him down is guys not necessarily dodging on him not having a ton of caused turnovers, and him not getting out and getting assists and goals. But when you look at his play year over year, the dude is unreal. The dude's a shutdown defender, doesn't let up many goals. I think there was a point last year where it was 5 or 6 games in and he hadn't let up a goal, or he only let up 3 or something crazy like that. That's insane.
If you're not hearing a defenseman's name, they're doing a good job.
They're doing more than a good job.
It's almost like an offensive lineman in football.
Yeah, you almost don't want to hear a defenseman's name. The only time you do is when they score, or, they blow a guy up, or they take a stupid penalty, something like that. But he doesn't really do those things. He just plays very solid, fundamental lacrosse, especially on the defensive side, has some of the best feet and position in the game, and is always there to help. So if you're not looking at Jared Newman for the conversation at the least for Defensive Player of the Year every year, you just shouldn't be having that conversation because you're obviously not looking at the right things.
And then, we'll touch on the big press conference that blew up lacrosse Twitter this week with the 25-man roster cutdowns. The Whip Snakes, Adam Lamberti dropped the tough question, as everyone, I feel like, was trying to dance around it almost. Will Manny was cut, and that was kind of the big name and the big domino to drop from the roster cut downs. Led the Whipsnakes in scoring last year, was signed as a free agent, and the following year, he was the All-Star Game MVP, if I'm not mistaken. Following year, doesn't make the roster. Stags said it's, from the sounds of it as well, it was a collaborative decision between the coaching staff and Will Manny, where the positional fit just wasn't there anymore with what they're trying to do. And obviously Drew Snyder is in there now as their offensive coordinator and assistant coach to Stags. The Will Manny news was definitely shocking. I felt a lot better about it, and I never doubted that there was some sort of communication about it, but it felt a lot better knowing that it was a collaborative effort between the two from what Stags told us. And now we're on Will Manny watch to see where he signs, when he signs, and we're going into a PLL season for the first time where Will Manny's not on an opening day roster.
I mean, it's an interesting, look at it, but that's kind of where we're headed with the PLL is, looking in the next couple years, we're going to see some guys maybe enter retirement because they just can't find a roster. The younger guys are coming in and they have talent. They're ready to play and they're working hard and their bodies are just at a pace where they can continue to do that at a crazy level because they're still young. Stags brought that up and a couple other coaches did too. Bill brought it up, talking just like, birthdays. They come around every year, which means you're getting older.
Happy birthday to Kieran McCardle, our guy.
And, you can only do that so many, you can only go for so many years. And when guys start to come in and they're playing at the same level, if they're playing even at the same level as you, you're already behind technically because you don't have the legs they have. And if they're playing better than you, that's even worse. And that's where the league is going. Guys are coming in unbelievable. The last two drafts have been unreal in terms of talent. You look back at last year's draft, the defensive talent in it from rounds 1 through 4 were insane, and you were still getting steals at midfield all over the draft. And then you look this year, and the offensive midfield and attack was just off the charts, and you still were able to grab good defenders and goalies in this draft as well. So just the talent that's coming in from the collegiate level is insane. It's crazy to see, some of our favorite players and guys that have been around forever start to not make rosters. But when you look at the talent that's already in the league and the talent that's coming in, the older guys are going to start getting phased out.
And I know TLN put out their graphic of where will we see Will Manny next? Could it be an Archers reunion? Could he go back to the Cannons? I think our guy, Chase, the PLL Pipeline, brought up the best scenario in our group chat. Will Manny on the Denver Outlaws makes too much sense and would not shock me if, say, 2-3 weeks from now, there's an injury maybe, somebody's not a fit, whatever it may be, and, Pseudo picks up the phone and is calling Will Manny to come play with the Outlaws. And I would love to see Will Manny on that Outlaws team with Logan Wisnauskas, with Brennan O'Neill, with a Cross Ferrara. I'm sure you would be foaming at the mouth to see Will Manny playing on the wing with Josh Sawada. His fit on that team, especially a team that, we'll talk about them in a minute with Justin Anderson, what he brought up, he's going on his 4th year, and he said, I'm the oldest member of the offense. Bringing in a veteran like Will Manny to a team like that, who's looking for a direction to go, a guy who has won in this league before, has, won in the MLL before, has had unbelievable success throughout his lacrosse career. It almost feels like a no-brainer that Pseudo should have Will Manny's number, on speed dial, ready to go at any given moment. And I think that's our collective podcast, thought is Will Manny to the Outlaws needs to happen.
Oh yeah, I'm here for it. Like you said, him playing on the wing with Josh Zawada, it gives you a right-handed guy, it gives you a left-handed guy, and whichever one you choose, and then you can run, the other two attackmen between Cross, Wiz, and BO out of the box, and you're looking at a crazy offense when you add that to Garrett Bundy Bundy Jr., Hanley, and Anderson, who are already in the midfield. It almost doesn't get better than that. Zawada is an insane feeder. He can dodge and get his own shot, but just his vision after dodging is insane. And to put him on put a shooter like Will Manny on the wing with a guy like that, you're just asking for corners to get absolutely abused. And then it just insinuates that offense so much. But then again, he is on the older side. He does fit their offense, and I don't even know if they want to go that way. They may want to be in a less traditional offense that's more like dodge heavy and just, hey, we want to trust every guy we have out on the field to beat a matchup. And I'm not sure Will Manny has that dodging prowess anymore that he used to have, and he's more of a spot-up shooter that we've seen in the last few years in the league, and they may not want that on their team, but if they do, that's the spot to go. And even if they kind of just want him there to take some shots and be kind of what I would consider kind of like a Patrick Kane for the wings this year, where you're an older guy, you're bringing that veteran progress. We need you here to do certain things and be who you are as a player, but you're not a focal point for us. You're just a guy that comes in and knows how to lead the team.
I'll say this from a Will Manny standpoint for his pitch to the Outlaws. Number 4 is available because Jackson Merrill is no longer there. And like we mentioned, the veteran fit is there if that's a direction they want to go in. And I also think seeing Will Manny in black and orange would be fucking sweet.
I mean, Will Manny looks good in anything he
That's
puts
true.
on, but that
he
would
put
be
that shit
fire.
on.
That would be fire.
Will Manny in a jersey that has that tertiary logo or a throwback Outlaws situation, if he's on the roster, then would be sweet. I do have breaking jersey analytics news, Steech. I don't know if you're prepared. Strap up. Put your seatbelts on if you're listening at home. I do have, according to the PLL roster portion of the website, I do have the official number for number 1 overall pick, Brennan O'Neill. Drum roll, everybody. Brennan O'Neill will be wearing number 42 for your Denver Outlaws.
I'm cool with it. I mean, when you look around, that is a number I've seen guys dominate with. I mean, looking back at my high school season, there's a guy in our conference wears 42, won unanimous player of the year last year, and he's going to be close to that again this year. Just an insane player. He's going out to play D3 at Colorado College next year. In college, I faced multiple guys who wore 42 during my time in D3, and they were insane shooters from the top that were just 6'4", behemoths of men. Didn't understand how they were playing D3 lacrosse at that size, but they sure were, and they were insane. And then, you got guys like Mark Matthews rocking 42 as well. So there's no way you can tell me that 42 is a bad number to wear as an offensive guy. And if there's any guy that can take 42 and make it look good, it's going to be Brennan O'Neill. So I'm excited just to see, the number 1 overall pick get out on the field and play ball. And it's going to be nice to see him doing so in his first game against the Chaos. His first goal is going to come against Blaze Reardon, most likely. His first dodge that he beats a guy is going to be against Will Bowen, Jack Rowlett, or Jared Newman. That's insane. The matchup he gets to open things up is a tough one for him, but it's going to be an exciting one on both sides, and I'm sure he's going to come through and perform like he has been every chance every time he's called on. Looking back at the Worlds, he did it against the best players. So I would expect him to warm into the PLL season pretty soon and continue being the amazing player we've all seen him be.
And we were talking about it earlier this week that he was going to have to change his number because obviously Ryan Tarafenko, friend of the program, wears number 34. Number 24 is what B.O. wore at Worlds. That is Owen McElroy's number. So he did the Nick Rowlett. He picked it up, threw it, and reversed it, and he flipped his Worlds number. And that's more than likely what I would assume is where 42 comes from. Dylan Gregar also wearing number 40 for the Outlaws. And Dalton Young is wearing number 11 for the Brand. Zawada did get his number 79. Graham Bundy Jr. is wearing number 7. Jack Myers is rocking number 2. So he switches from his number 15 that he was wearing for Chrome and then for Whipsnakes last year. And I don't think there's any other... Oh, no, Sam Alexo is wearing number 48. And then obviously Pacino got his number 88. Weirman's got number 52, and that's about it for your Denver Outlaws. But yeah, Will Manny on the Outlaws, we need to make that happen. Pseudo, we're going to be whispering in your ear, making that case for Will Manny there. I think it makes a lot of sense for that team. And I love what Justin Anderson said, that the rebrand to the Outlaws isn't, morphing into the identity of the team, but it does feel like a fresh start for them. It's a lot of young guys. They're the youngest roster in the league by average age. And I think this Outlaws team, while there will be, I think, bumps in the road across the board, just with a lot of new players trying to figure out that identity, I think they're going to be a lot more fun to watch than they were last year.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be an exciting team. I don't think they were that – they weren't not exciting last year. There were a handful of games they could have won last year that they were in. And then, of course, you had game 1 against the Whipsnakes, which I called out because I don't know what it was over the last few years about Chrome and Whipsnakes, but Chrome just had their number. So, there were plenty of exciting games that had Chrome in them last year, but they just couldn't finish them out. And I think we get closer games at the end this year, and I think we get a few more wins for this Outlaw team. And then just with kind of no expectations on them and a whole new group of guys that are just coming in, and have a backing because they have, the old Denver Outlaws moniker now to play off of. They're going to be an exciting team just based off of that. I'm excited for their homecoming weekend out in Denver. If I can make it out there, I'm going to. It's going to be a stretch, but that's going to be an exciting weekend for them because there's going to be tons of fans out for them. And, it's a homecoming for Bill Tierney as he goes out with the Water Dogs. So that weekend is just going to be insane. And the Denver Outlaws are definitely going to be a team that I think bring a lot of flair to the league.
And speaking of Denver, we announced it on the socials on Monday, but we got boots on the ground in Denver. What do you guys know about the Avenger Initiative? What do you know about the West Coast Avengers? A longtime listener of the pod, probably since day one, and way back for as long as I can remember, Brandon Hooten reached out and was letting us know that he was a free agent when it came to his media availability and was down to help the boys, and we haven't had a footprint on the West Coast whatsoever with the pod, and we are thrilled.
Since my one trip to Salt Lake City in 2021.
It was a one and done, but now we have boots on the ground. So Brandon Hooten, Hoots, we refer to often on this pod, is joining the squad, joining myself, Deej, and Chase. Hoots will be like our Denver correspondent almost, being that he lives out there. He's going to be at PLL Denver for us, and potentially, depending on his schedule, but it feels more than a 50% chance that he'll be able to make it to PLL for Utah for the Archers homecoming weekend as well. And not only that, Hoots is going to be covering the Colorado Mammoth for us, so we will have people in the building for every Mammoth home game. Hoots is also going to be photographing all of these things for us, and he's also got credentials with Denver men's lacrosse for college. So we will have boots on the ground for University of Denver's season next year as well. We're assembling a team, Deej. Sometimes the best just keep getting better, and we're out here making things better, and I'm stoked to have Hoots as a part of the squad.
I mean, it doesn't get better than expanding and continuing to expand. We're going nationwide with this thing and continuing to get better. And it's just the start. Hoot's going to be a great guy to bring into the fold, and he's going to do amazing things out west. And I can't wait to get out there and link up with him and continue growing the OTB brand. But, being able to have, that stretch out to Denver, out to, the Mammoth, and then also now with the Outlaws is going to be huge, not having to worry so much about getting out there and then having that presence there, especially as we're able to get to Utah or San Diego within the coming years. That's going to help as well. But, yeah, it's just bringing in new guys that want to be here and want to continue to help OTB be what it is huge. And it always helps when you have supporters who jump on. With me, it was different. I kind of just fell into the fold and was already, super energetic in the lacrosse, and it was that. But, these guys know what OTB has been like since the beginning. They know what it feels like to, do work from the bottom up and have stuck out and seen the the flourishment of not only OTB but Underground Sports Philadelphia as a whole, and they want to be a part of it. So they're coming in to make things nothing but better, and those are the kind of people you want around you. So I'm just excited to get to work, and like you said, Avengers Unite every single day.
Yeah, we got the West Coast building out, with Hoots, and I couldn't have put it better myself. The two guys we've added with Chase and Hoots, like, they get the brand, they get like what our overall mission is when it comes to covering sports, not only lacrosse, but like you mentioned, Underground Sports Philadelphia as a whole, and what we're trying to accomplish as an independent, fully operating media company. And they just want to be part of that puzzle that makes this thing go to the moon. And when you have people like that in your corner, and you have people that are willing to be down for the cause and be part of something that can truly be special, like we both know not only this podcast but our entire company can be, is very, very awesome. And it's finally fun to have like a consistent squad for the first time since 2019 on this show, where we're not fumbling around looking for this, that, and the third. 2019 was the first year of the PLL, and we were attacking it full-fledged, and obviously things change, people's lives change, and they got to go in different directions, but it is awesome to have like a full contingent now. And that doesn't mean we're stopping. Chase may be an intern. I fully expect Chase will be a part of this show for as long as he chooses to do so as well. And if you're an intern out there still looking for an internship, I know it's intern season, hit us up. We are not stopping. We are not, limiting this thing to one intern, not only for this show, but our company as a whole. So if you're looking for an internship, slide in the DMs at undergroundphi, at otblaxpod, or shoot us an email at undergroundsportsphi@gmail.com, and we'll be more than happy to connect with you. You can also hit us up on LinkedIn as well. If you're on there looking for an internship, just search Underground Sports Philadelphia, shoot us a message, and we are looking for interns for sure across the board for all of our shows. So very happy for the squad we have going into 2024. Last bit on press conferences. You were in your glory, Brian Holman. You had that twinkle in your eye seeing your guy.
Yeah, dude, I'm so excited to see Brian this weekend, man. I haven't figured out.
DJ has the biggest man crush on Brian Holman.
No,
in the most platonic way.
Seriously though, like it all started last year in Albany. Like we were just sitting there in the presser, and everybody's asking him all these questions about the guys, about the team, and what do you got looking forward into the season? What's the most exciting part, about coaching? And I just was like, nobody has actually asked him how he feels. Like, he is still a person. He is a human that has feelings, and he just went through something significant. Let's get his input on that. So I just took a deep breath, and I was like, in my head, I was like, I'm probably about to I'm asking a question that is going to go one of two ways. This is going to be the most amazing question, and people in the room and Brian are going to absolutely love it. Or I'm asking the dumbest question ever, and everybody's going to laugh at me and look at me like I'm stupid. It ended up being a really great question, and he just was like, he stopped and was like, thanks. Nobody's really asked me about that. I haven't thought about it too much, but, then he, goes on into, how thankful he is just to have the job and to be able to be there and experience it with the guys and be around them and enjoying coaching for what it was at the time, just through training camp in one game. And that's kind of just where we hit it off, and we checked in with each other throughout the year, and he's been great as far as, his interaction with us and with other media and fans and teams around the city or around the league. He's just an amazing guy, and I'm excited to see what the Cannons have rolling, because when you got a guy like that up top, it trickles down, and you saw it on the play last year on the field with the play last year, and I can only imagine they're going to come with that or better this year.
Yeah, and I mean, before we dive into just previewing the weekend as well, we learned some news about some players that are unfortunately injured and will not be playing this season, and one of them is on the Cannons. It's Jack Keelty. He ruptured his Achilles and will be out for the season. That's a huge blow for this Cannons team. I know their defense is stacked, but Jack Kilty has been on this Cannons team since day one, and he's the captain of the team, and to not have that week in and week out, on the field is going to be tough. It's huge that they made the moves they did in free agency and through trade to get, a Garrett Epple and to get a Bryce Young, but it sucks that Jack Kilty is out for the year.
It is, because that defense was going to be insane, which with what we presumed was going to be him, Garrett, and Bryce Young down there, that was going to be one of the best defenses in the league, and we were definitely going to be talking about them week in and week out. I don't think too much changes with that defense. Kilty is a huge guy to lose, just his presence, his knowledge, the way he plays, he communicates. They're not going to be able to replace that part, but they still have amazing defenders down on that side of the field. It's going to suck not being able to talk to him in pressers, but I am interested to see kind of how this team bounces back from that per se, and because it was a training camp injury, so it wasn't like he wasn't supposed to be there, and they were expecting not to have him. This just happened, so now it's kind of like a spur of the moment thing that they have to react to and make decisions in. So I'm just interested to see how the team responds to that and how good this defense is going to be as they lose a leader. But when you have a guy like Bryce Young, you have a guy like Garrett Epple, your leaders are there. Colin Kearse is a natural leader between the pipes, communicates very well. So you also have that. And, I mean, I may be speaking too early with Colin Kearse because, for all we know, Gitz could end up getting the starting job as well. But nothing changes really there either. He's a great communicator and has always been ahead of defenses in front of him.
Yeah, it definitely feels like Colin's going to be the starter, especially since he started primarily most of the season last year, and then he was in the presser today kind of as a face of the team. But yeah, it sucks that Kilty's out. Some other injuries. Kenny Brower was placed on the PUP list before training camp and did not report to training camp. He's going to be out what feels like an extended amount of time. Coach Tierney said that that injury popped up, and it's frustrating that he won't be there. But luckily for the Water Dogs, their defense as well is very loaded, and they have two young guys coming in that both made the 25-man roster that are going to be huge for them. Seems like Jack Hanna's going to be out for a few weeks as well. He had surgery, so not too sure when we'll see Jack Hanna. And then he did break the news that Jake Higgins fractured his left foot and will be out for the year. That sucks. That is a huge loss for this short stick D-Midi group for the Water Dogs. But again, tip of the cap to, at the time, interim GM Andy Copeland and to Coach Tierney. Signing Jake Richard turned out to be a pretty fucking smart move.
Yeah, I mean, even if Higgins was healthy, that still would have been a smart move. It just would have been a tough decision, to decide what's going on with the short stick D-mid room there. But Richard is going to slide into this team well, and he's going to fill that spot with some of the best short stick D-mid play that you'll get in the league. He was alongside Danny Logan last year, and that Atlas short stick D-mid room was a tough one to dodge on. It's actually one of the few times that you saw teams be more amped to dodge on LSMs and poles down at attack than they were short sticks. So that says a lot about his play, or not only Danny Logan's play, but his play as well. And he's coming over to a tough, gritty team in the Water Dogs that pride themselves on having very good short sticks that can go two ways. So I'm excited to see how he fits into that unit and continues to make them better.
Yeah, and then the other injuries, it seems like Brad Smith is going to miss the season as well. Coach Staggs mentioned that he had surgery and that they told him that the recovery from the surgery is going to be probably the full season, and he was playing injured last year on an injury that made things worse and worse than they expected or even knew at first glance. So it feels like the Whips will be without Brad Smith this year, which sucks. He missed his rookie season due to injury, and now another season potentially gone for Brad Smith, which is a big blow for that Whipsnakes midfield group and just their offense as a whole. And then Tucker Dordovic feels like he's going to be out for 3 weeks, and they're hoping to get him back after that overall league bye after Philly. So we'll see Tucker in a few weeks, which is good. It's not an extended injury, but he is on the PUP list, and Matt Reese also on injured reserve for the Whips.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of faces not going to be around, but a lot of new faces coming in and going to be able to make their mark. So that just means that when these guys come back from their injuries or, they're back next year, it's going to make all those decisions the tougher, and teams are going to continue to get better. It always sucks to see a guy not be able to make it out on the field or not be able to play, but it does always offer another opportunity. And I just pray that, guys continue to get healthy and they do it in a speedy way that's safe. And, we're able to see some of the best players back out on the field soon.
For sure. But let's get into previewing PLL Week 1, ladies and gentlemen. It is brought to you by our PLL app code. That's right. Guys, the PLL season is here. If you don't have the PLL app on your phone, what are you doing? Weekly Fantasy is back. We've got the OTB Fantasy group ready to rock and roll. If you haven't joined yet, we're going to be blasting it over the socials the next couple of days. Join our fantasy group. Go head-to-head against myself, against Deej, against Chase, against Hoots, and against some of the OTB faithful, Underground Sports Philadelphia personalities that join the group. We're going to conjure up something to dish out to the winner of our fantasy group this year. It's only right. I think we got to figure something good out at the end of the year. Whoever comes out on top. We had Chris, Buffalo Chris, as I like to call him, DM me today and was like, as PLL season rolls around, I just want to let you know it's going to be like the Bandits. I'm going back to back in the fantasy group. The banter is here.
All right. I mean, that's fine. I like your decision to cook something up because you know what? When I win it, it's going to be nice to flex it on the pod. And I'm going to flex it every week. Like, look what I got. Who's going to take it from me?
Banter season is here.
It is here.
I'm pumped.
Chris, you done started it. I wasn't even going to do all that.
We kickstarted it.
I wasn't even going to do all that this year. I was going to be chilling and just vibe and just see what happens. But
we're going to figure something out to give to the winner of our fantasy group for sure.
I'm about to be the Anthony Edwards of the fantasy group. Straight looking at you at the free throw line.
And losing in the conference finals?
Nope.
Oof. The PLL app is truly your one-stop shop for everything you need when it comes to the PLL season. From PLL Fantasy to polls, it's gamified, so you're going to level up in the app. And we were mentioning this a few days ago. When you get to a certain level in the app, every single month you're going to get a special discount code to use in the PLL shop. Who doesn't like a discount code? And who... you want to level up right away. If you don't have the app, download the PLL app in the App Store or Google Play Store, or go to pll.app, and when you go to the redeem code section, type in OTBPOD. That's OTBPOD for 500 XP in the PLL app. As far as we know, that still works. I know it's from Champ Series that we got that rolled out since we were there every single day of Champ Series, but as far as we know, that code still works. So if you're a new listener, if you haven't used our code yet, give us some feedback, too, and let us know if that code still works for you, because that would be huge. But regardless, download the PLL app. It will be a lifesaver for you this PLL season and beyond. Join our OTB fantasy group, and, of course, use our code OTBPOD for 500 XP in the PLL app. Deej, Season 6 kicks off with a championship game rematch on ABC. It's the Archers and the Water Dogs repping cities for the first time, the Utah Archers and the Philadelphia Water Dogs. And then the quote-unquote nightcap at 3:30 p.m. on Saturday is the Boston-New York rivalry kicking off in the PLL as the Cannons take on the hometown team, the New York Atlas, for their first of 2 games for their homecoming weekend. The rest of those games outside of Game 1 are all on ESPN+. No free ads, but that is where you can watch them. Sunday at 1 p.m., your first game is the Carolina Chaos taking on the new-look Denver Outlaws, formerly known as Chrome Lacrosse Club. And your quote-unquote nightcap at 3:30 p.m. is the Maryland Whipsnakes taking on the New York Atlas, the once thought to be rivalry in the league that never came to fruition. Maybe it does now that there's home cities, they're in the same conference. What stands out to you this week? For me, in particular, I was thinking this as I was looking at the schedule while we were talking. The biggest thing, not only for the Atlas, but obviously since it's week 1, they have the homecoming weekend to kick things off. But I think every team that has a homecoming weekend, it's damn near imperative for you to not lose both games. Because of conference play, because there's one less team that's going to make the playoffs this year. If you go 0-2 in your homecoming weekend and all of those homecoming games are in your conference, you're behind the 8 ball 110% when it comes to making the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be a big time thing for guys or for teams, is making sure that you at least split the weekend. You probably would prefer to go 2-0, but we understand how tough that's going to be playing back to back. But you do want to at least go 1-1. Losing too many games, especially early on in the season, is tough. But losing games in conference is going to be huge. We're going to see that because they're only going to have a handful of conference games, and it's going to come down to tiebreakers. Like, that's going to be the big thing. And when you lose games, tiebreakers are not normally on your side. So it's tough for Atlas to open up with their home opener. That was kind of one big point I had, was like, you're coming in fresh off of training camp, having to play 2 games. They're very important because you can't afford to really lose one of them or both of them. You have to win at least one. So it's kind of a lot of pressure to open up the season. But then again, you look out and you got teams that may be fighting for a playoff spot later in the year that have their homecoming, and now you need to win at least one of the games, if not both, to ensure your playoff spot or your seeding or whatever the case may be. So it's kind of a pro and con all around the league. That's my thing with Atlas this weekend. But obviously the championship rematch is a perfect way to open things. I love that it's going to be on ABC, and we'll get some linear television views, and hopefully we catch some people kind of just looking for something to watch and they stumble up across it. That's literally how I found out about lacrosse, was just stumbling across it and found the NCAA tournament on ESPN. That was my first experience with lacrosse way back in middle school. So that's the way to do it. Having this game on ESPN is great, especially with these 2 teams. So I'll be looking out at that. And then the other thing for me, not too into the final game of the weekend. I think there's some stuff there, but the only thing really there is we'll see kind of the first looks of a team after, playing a back-to-back and how that affects them and the roster size and everything we talked about earlier. But really it's more that third game. We're looking at 2 teams coming into the year with some offensive turnover that don't know exactly what they're going to be getting on the offensive side, trying out some new things and some new players, but 2 very strong defenses that are returning their entire units, adding a few guys, but they're both very solid with good goalies in their standing, knowing what you're going to get from them. So that may be a low-scoring game that turns into a defensive battle, which I always love as a D guy. So that's kind of a game I have circled for the potential of being a lower-scoring game. But
yeah, the
only
flip
defenseman
side, not coming back is Matt McMahon.
And on the flip side of that is that could be one of the higher scoring games because
we've
of
seen
that,
with these 2 teams
where
as well.
you don't know what you're going to be getting from the offensive side. So the defenses kind of react in a way that they're not ready for, and it ends up popping off for goals on goals. So it kind of just has potential to be exciting either way for me. I know some offensive-minded guys wouldn't necessarily like the defensive battle, but it has potential to be an absolute blockbuster.
I'm pulling up the just scores that we had between these 2 teams last year because they were all high scoring, and we get into it a little bit with Dan in our weekly winners segment. I think every game these 2 teams played went to the over, if I'm not mistaken. Looking here. Yeah, so I think the first time these 2 teams played last year was in Dallas, week 7. Archers won 19-18 in that just absolute thriller that was also on ABC. Going back and forth, just goal for goal, 2-pointer for 2-pointer. It was absolutely electric. And then the final time they played in the regular season was that game in week 11 in Utah at Zions Bank Stadium. That was absolutely insane that you had Rylan Reese running out of the box with seconds ticking off the clock. You get the rebound. Jack Hanna scores from 2 to tie the game, and then the Water Dogs end up winning 14-13. And then obviously the championship game final score was 15-14. So the last 3 times these teams have played, including for the PLL championship, they've all been high-scoring 1-goal games, which you couldn't ask for more if that's going to be your opening game to start a season on ABC for a plethora of new fans to tune into, especially with the home markets. Philadelphia, if you're not watching this game, you need to be watching this game. It's going to be absolutely incredible, and it's the perfect lead-in because the Phillies don't play until 7:15 on Saturday night. You get a nice little 1 p.m. start with your brand new team in your city. Same thing goes for the Archers. You get a 1 p.m. game. I know there's no baseball team in Utah, and the Rockies aren't that good if you're a Rockies fan, so you got sports to watch on ABC. There's nothing better than that on a Saturday afternoon. But yeah, like you mentioned, this could either be a defensive battle, and we haven't seen Coach Tierney coach in this matchup yet, so we don't know what tricks are up his sleeve. The face-off is going to be interesting. How many reps Zach Currier gets taking face-offs? Will it be Ryan Conrad? We saw a picture today from our guy Wyatt Miller post Eli Gobrecht holding both a long pole and a short stick. Short stick Eli Gobrecht loading. It's going to be interesting to see what the strategy is at the face-off stripe for the Water Dogs in this game in particular, going up against the big burly man himself, number 99, Mike Sisselberger.
That's hilarious because that was not the game I was talking about at all.
Oh.
So that spiel is fantastic. I was definitely referencing the Denver Chaos game. But no, all of your points are absolutely correct. And the tough part is I think Sis is going to have a game and a half due to not going against a traditional face-off guy. But there are some things that guys who will go out for the Water Dogs to take face-offs know how to do, and if they're able to keep it dirty, they have one of the best 3-man GB units in the league, no matter who's out on the wings for them. So that's kind of the key for them, is keeping it dirty, making and keeping it dirty so that they can go in and get ground balls. But if Sis is winning these clean, he's going to have a day, and so is that offense.
Yeah, it's going to come down to that Water Dogs defense stepping up. You know, if the Archers are getting those early possessions and them being able to force that 32-second shot clock in their favor rather than in the Archers' favor. You know, when it comes to your mentioned Chaos and Outlaws game on Sunday, we get into it a little bit with Dan as well when it comes to just the gambling side of things, but this game has potential to play to the over for sure. You know, we're going to see Brennan O'Neill in a pro-style offense, per se, for the first time, with a lot of what we both think is great complementary pieces to his game. And we've mentioned time and time again how pivotal it was for them to draft Josh Sawada, to have a true guy at X for them. You know, the face-off matchup is going to be very fun. We saw Nick Rowlett play in the NLL this winter for the Wings, and I think that's only going to help his game continue to develop and get better. And then going up against a guy like Connor Farrell, who it felt like had a new lease on life at the face-off stripe by playing for now the champion Buffalo Bandits, and he's got a ring on his finger, you know, for the first time. So it's going to be a fun face-off battle there. And, you know, those two teams know how to score. Those two teams can run up and down the field with the best of them. And I think the Outlaws kind of have this fresh lease on their careers with a new look, a new start, a new city to kind of rep and get behind, and they can kind of leave what happened last year in the final year of Chrome Lacrosse Club in the past and kind of start fresh now as the Denver Outlaws. And, you know, watching this Carolina Chaos team be chaotic, for lack of a better term, and all pun intended, it's going to be a new look for them on offense, a new look in that midfield for sure. Like, you know, Kyle Jackson's really the only returning offensive midi for them. Will Perry was released during roster cutdowns. Kevin Rogers, who they signed in free agency, was released in roster cutdowns. So it's a lot of new faces. We're going to see Jules Henningberg in, you know, a system that we haven't really seen him in a long time. I think, you know, we're going to see him more at an attack position than from the midfield. I'm sure we'll get a good mix of it, but we're going to see Jules playing attack a lot. And this is going to be the first time we see Josh Byrne play without Dane Smith for an entire season, both whether it's indoor or outdoor. And I'm very intrigued to just watch Josh's game be in his own hands. And it's not to say Dane Smith held him back whatsoever. That's not true at all. Dane Smith only enhances and complements what Josh does. But it's going to be interesting to watch Josh Byrne's game just by Josh Byrne standards and see what he does without, you know, the Batman A to his Batman.
I think it'll kind of allow him to have some freedom and but also be a leader, and be kind of the focal point of the offense, but in a way that allows him to share the ball a little bit more. In the PLL, we see him as a heavy goal scorer. I think he's going to get a lot of that attention this year, not only just, from the top defenseman, but, defense is probably going to be looking to slide a little bit early, not having Dane Smith and Ryan Smith there for him to pass off to, not having Kluch there either. So, but that's just going to give other guys a chance to shine. I think you're really going to see the quarterback and vision of Josh Byrne this year more than anything, and you're just going to see an offense that's ready to explode with a whole new outlook on it. I think that's the coolest thing about Chaos is we're not getting this traditional kind of twos offense, box style, lots of pick and rolls. We're going to get, I believe, a more free-flowing, use your abilities to create opportunities kind of offense.
Yeah, and then, it's the Atlas homecoming weekend. Like we mentioned, I think the biggest thing is just seeing how Atlas perform coming off of playing a game on Saturday and then coming into another one on Sunday. Less than 24 hours turnaround time is going to be fascinating to watch. It's the first time we're ever going to see that in the PLL. And, it's not an easy start for them. You're going up against the defending championship series champions in the Boston Cannons, and you're going up against a formidable team that's always in the mix and has always had your number in this league since year one in the Maryland Whipsnakes, who obviously have a new look to them as well. But Atlas have their hands full this weekend for sure with their first two matchups as the New York Atlas.
I mean, but that's kind of also can be used as a great way to boost the team morale heading into this. You have a great opportunity to set the tone as the first New York Atlas team. You're already going down in history as such, but now it's time to kind of build on that, and it kind of makes you exciting. Like, you can go out and just be like, boom, we are the New York Atlas, and this is what it's going to be like when you're going to play us, especially here on our home turf. You're going to get a tough game, and we're going to come out with wins, and we're going to make you earn it. That's just kind of a way that you can spin it as a coach or as a captain, as a team member, kind of like, hey, we have a great opportunity in front of us to really show who we are and kind of make a stamp on this home market thing as the first ones to have a homecoming weekend rather than, it's real tough this weekend for us. It's spin it and make it positive and really attack the weekend for what it could be rather than kind of looking at what you have to face.
I feel like I'm also the only one who still has a lot of questions about the Maryland Whipsnakes. Like, I feel like everyone is kind of throwing away the roller coaster ride that they had last year, and it's just like, Colin Heacock is going to fix everything for the Whipsnakes. He's with Matt Rambo. Matt Rambo has his two best friends in Colin Heacock and Zed Williams playing with him. Everything is going to be sunshine and rainbows. They lost, the face of the franchise, arguably, in Michael Earhart to retirement. You traded away Bryce Young. Obviously, you got somebody back in Matt Reese, but he's on the injured reserve list. You traded away Connor Kirst. There's a lot of question marks for me still going into this season about the Whipsnakes. I know they got younger. I know they have a lot of new talent coming into this team, but I just don't know if you can truly pencil them in as just like, oh yeah, it's going to be the Whipsnakes. They'll be there at the end. They'll compete. I still need to see it from a lot of these guys, and it's going to be interesting watching this team. And, for the first 3 weeks, you're not going to have the reigning Rookie of the Year and Tucker Dordovic on this team. There's a lot of question marks. There's a lot of, things that you're going to want to see from these guys going into the year. It sounds like they're going to be taking it easy with mixing Joe Nardella in at a full capacity early on as well. Coach Staggs brought that up in the press conference where Nards, it's not his knee, but he's banged up from the NLL season. And, does that mean we see more of a give and take with Nards and Petey LaSalle? Do we see both of them active on a game day roster? It's going to be interesting to watch that. And, like we mentioned earlier, you're without Brad Smith potentially for the entire year. What does Elijah Gash bring to you as a guy who's never played in the PLL? He's obviously coming off an injury last season. Ajax Zapatello coming in for the first time as a rookie is going to be something to watch for this defense. But there's a lot of questions, I think, that a lot of people are just kind of thrown to the wayside when it comes to this Whipsnakes team. Also, looking at newly installed headshots, Garrett Ledman got a haircut.
I did notice that.
He looks like a different human.
I'm excited for it. Sometimes getting a nice chop kind of resets things. I think he had an okay season last year, but wasn't what he was looking for this year. I'm kind of excited to see him and that group of rookies from last year have their sophomore campaign. We always know what it's like. It's one of two ways. You either fall into the sophomore slumps or you have an amazing second year. And for what I can say about the PLL is most guys are having an amazing second year rather than sophomore slumps. So I'm excited to see what this year's sophomores have in their second year in the league. And he's going to be one that I expect to kind of step more into his role with the Whip Snakes playing two ways and really provide some splash for them.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a new look offense for them too. Obviously, Staggs is going to be a part of that offense, but Drew Snyder is in the mix now as your offensive coordinator and the first time in the PLL, so that's going to be something to pay attention to as well. But don't just pencil in the Whip Snakes. I think we need to watch them play a lot more than what meets the eye when it comes to that team, and they are a huge wild card this year going into the season. But Deej, I think without any further ado, we head on over to the pick pond and we make our first 2024 PLL Picks of the Week, brought to you by our friends over at Kenwood Beer, the official beer partner of Underground Sports Philadelphia. It's a refreshing light beer, just 4.1% ABV, only 120 calories, just 8 grams of carbs. Guys, Kenwood Summer, it's got to be there for you. They are the best in the game. Go to kenwoodbeer.com. Check out the Kenny storefront. Check out all the awesome apparel, these great, fantastic pint glasses that they have on the storefront. And, of course, go to kenwoodbeer.com and use the Kenny Finder to see who's got Kenwood beer on tap in the Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Maryland, New Jersey, and Delaware areas. Whipsnakes fans, Water Dogs fans, your squads may not be playing at home this weekend, but you can enjoy an ice-cold Kenwood beer by using the Kenny Finder. Watch your teams go to work this weekend. You can also get it at your local liquor stores in those markets. Must be 21 or older to do so. And, of course, please drink responsibly. Deej, we start the season with a championship game rematch. It is the Archers, I should say the Utah Archers, and the Philadelphia Water Dogs. Showdown on ABC. Who do you got in the championship game rematch?
I have to go Archers with this one, although it's tough. I think it's going to come down to the face-off and the fact that you have the Archers have a true face-off guy at the stripe, and a good one at that, someone who came in last year as a rookie and absolutely dominated the game. I don't expect him to take a step backwards, and if this game is close, it's going to come down to possessions, and he's almost a guaranteed possession for them at this point in the game without the Water Dogs having a true face-off guy. So that's what has me leaning, but just like the last 3 or 4 matchups, this one's going to be close, and it could tilt either way.
I'm going to go a little first game magic for Coach Tierney. And we saw last year the Water Dogs coming off of winning a championship, go toe-to-toe with the Chaos, and pulled out a win in overtime. I think we could see the same thing happen here. It would not shock me if this game goes to overtime. I think it's going to follow the trend of a high-scoring one-goal game or one-possession game, whether somebody hits a nice little heater of a 2-bomb. But I'm going to go with the Water Dogs to kick off Coach Tierney's pro coaching career with a W and get the Water Dogs in the win column to start the 2024 season. We head to the quote-unquote nightcap on Saturday, 3:30 p.m. on ESPN+. It's the Boston Cannons, your reigning championship series champions, taking on the hometown New York Atlas. We both have talked about it. This Cannons roster is loaded. There's a lot of questions surrounding this Atlas team just based on chemistry and getting in the mix with one another. I still think there's going to be a lot of bumps in the road for this Atlas team. And, you know, Connor Schellenberger hasn't been in camp every single day, obviously having played in the Final Four. He had the Tuaraton ceremony tonight as we record this on Thursday night. And, you know, Liam Entenmann, same thing, hasn't been in camp yet. So there's a lot of questions just in a lot of positional groups for this Atlas team. And going up against a formidable team that has championship aspirations like the Boston Cannons, I think is a very tough, you know, start to the season. So I'm going to go with Boston to get the W.
Yeah, as much as I like Atlas and the things they're going to do this year, I do think they're going to split the weekend, so kind of tilting my picks here a little bit. But I don't think this is the game they're going to win. This Cannons team is good. They're excited, and like I said earlier, they have a great guy leading them up top, and they have all the pieces. I'm excited to see Zach Tucci get back out in the field and see what he's got at the stripe. But when you look at their offense, and then you look at having a guy like Colin Kirst in net, and then we talked about it a little bit during the presser. You asked, but there's so many family ties in this team. There's like 3 or 4 families.
Aslanians, Kirst, Holmans, obviously, and the Kavanaughs.
Yeah, that's a lot of family, and then you're taking that family and creating another family within the Chaos team. So it's really built upon relationships and trust between the two teams, or between the teams. So I really plan on seeing Cannons build off what they did last year, and I think it starts with the win in week 1.
I am very excited for this next game. It is the Carolina Chaos, the Denver Outlaws. I think this game is going to be physical. It's going to be scrappy. It's going to be one of those games that is just get your popcorn ready, because it's going to be a bruiser of a game. 2 great defenses, an all-world goalie, and a very, very great goalie in Sean Scanoni going toe-for-toe with each other, trying to keep their teams in these games. A new-look offense, the most youthful offense in the league. But sometimes experience outweighs fresh legs. And I'm going to go with Andy Towers and the Carolina Chaos to get the opening weekend dub.
I think this has low-key potential to be the best game of the weekend. It's going to be really exciting, whether, like I talked about earlier, it's a defensive matchup or an offensive onslaught. It's going to be exciting. Some of the best players on both sides of the field are out there, and obviously we're going to get a look at the number one overall pick for the first time. But I have to lean with the better defense, and the better defense is this Chaos defense top to bottom. When you look at the short stick D mid unit, you look at the LSMs, you look at the closed D, you look at the goalie, all 7 guys, when you look at it, are going to be better than the other 7 across. So I got to lean on them to pick up a couple more key stops than the Outlaws will be able to.
And another aspect of this, too, and not that it takes away from how talented he is, but Jesse Bernhardt has not been in camp, obviously, because he was coaching with Maryland. So missed out on camp once again. For good reason, but, it sucks not having your whole team in camp. Final game of the weekend, 3:30 p.m. Sunday on ESPN+. It's the Maryland Whipsnakes and the New York Atlas in Game 2. I think the most difficult part of this, Deej, this season for our pick segment is going to be kind of navigating through who's going to be playing for the homecoming team in that second game, whether or not any changes happen. You never want to see injuries happen, but that is a part of the game, and if that happens, you're going to see new guys come in. The Whipsnakes are fresh. They're rested versus a team that has less than 24 hours turnaround time to get ready for a second game after coming off a very tough game against the Boston Cannons. How do you see this game rolling out? Do the Atlas split their homecoming weekend, or do the Whipsnakes play spoiler and kick off the Atlas season in a tough hole to climb out of?
Sometimes it's hard to play in a back-to-back, but when you lose your first one, like I'm anticipating, it sometimes light a little fire under you, and we already talked about not falling behind the 8 ball and losing your 2 games on your homecoming weekend. That's a huge thing, especially with both of them being in conference. There are just more question marks, in my opinion, on this Whipsnakes offense and team surrounding the guys they've had leave, whether that be retirement, releases, new guys coming in, etc., than what we see with the Cannons. And I think that plays a part in this game. It's a little bit more open, and I think we see Coach Pressler take advantage of that expanded roster for that homecoming weekend, use a couple fresh legs. They make a difference, and the Atlas are able to come out on top and end week 1-1-1. But for them, they're looking to go 2-0 and have an amazing weekend, which is definitely possible.
I'm going to follow trends from the past in this pick, knowing how well the Maryland Whipsnakes have dominated the New York Atlas in the past since year 1 of the PLL, knowing that, if he plays in this second game versus the first game, which I would almost expect to see potentially, Joe Nardella playing against Trevor Baptiste. Joe has had the ability to go toe for toe with Trevor Baptiste more than anybody in the PLL, in their careers. And I think goalie play is a huge part of this matchup, and knowing that you have a trusted veteran in Kyle Bernlohr who bounced back extremely well and obviously got injured down the stretch last season, which put a damper on his 2023 campaign. But I think I trust Kyle Bernlohr more than either not having played a game yet in the PLL, Liam Entman, and that's no slight to Liam Entman's game. It's just he hasn't played against pro-level offenses yet, or a Tim Troutner or a Drake Porter or whatever it may be, and Drake's our guy, but I think I trust Kyle Bernlohr in net more, and if you have to pull Kyle Bernlohr, you have MTV Krebs right there waiting, and we've seen him perform at such a high level in the PLL as well. I trust that goalie room more right now than I do with the Atlas. So I'm going to take the Whip Snakes. I think this game could be close, and I agree with you. This game could end up being a split decision for the Atlas, and they win this one. It's way closer than that Cannons game in my book, but I'm going to go with the Whip Snakes to get the dub, and Atlas are going to have to climb themselves out of a tough hole to start the season. Is it doable? Yes, but it's a tough opening weekend start slate for the Atlas in my book. So I'm going to go with the Whip Snakes. So there are our opening weekend picks of the week, which on our picks graphics, which will be coming back, we'll have picks from myself, from Deej, from Chase, from Hoots, and from NeubyTalks on our picks graphics to follow along with. We're going to be keeping track. Hughes got the best record on the year. But for Deej and I, you'll hear our picks on the pod, and if Chase and Hoots are able to join us throughout the year on the show, they will for sure. But I've got Philly, Boston, Carolina, and Maryland. It is still weird to say that with the PLL and not just saying their team names. Deej has Utah, Boston, Carolina, and New York, and those are your Week 1 for 2024 PLL Picks of the Week, brought to you by Kenwood Beer. And without any further ado, ladies and gents, we're going to kick it to ourselves and NeubyTalks for our inaugural weekly winners segment to talk all things gambling with the PLL. Put a little cash in your pocket, a little beer money, if you will. So sit tight. Don't go anywhere. We're kicking it to ourselves, and we'll be right back to break down the college game and the defending national champions of the world, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. All right, everybody, welcome into a new segment on the Outside the Box podcast. It is, tentatively, we're going to call this Weekly Winners with our guy, NeubyTalks, going to be part of the show all PLL season long, giving us the best gambling picks for each week in the PLL. Stoked to have you on board, man. Happy to have you on with us this PLL season.
Absolutely. And it'll depend how many winners we can deliver. And then we'll have to potentially pivot the segment of just being like Newbie comes on and just picks random shit. But I'm liking the weekly winners out of the gate. I like the confidence that my boys have in me. And boys, we had such fun on draft night. I'm so pumped that we're going to be doing this every week. So appreciate y'all. Let's get into it.
Stoked to have you. We got 4 games on deck, 2 for those New York Atlas who have their homecoming week this week. So they'll be playing 2 games. First time a PLL team has played 2 games in a weekend since 2021. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out for those players that are playing those doubleheaders. But the first game is a championship rematch, and it's the Archers and the Water Dogs. Dogs are 1.5 point favorites plus money there. How are we feeling about the championship rematch, Dan?
I mean, I'm pumped. They did it right, putting this game on ABC right out of the gate. Going to be some juice up top. Interestingly enough, though, I look at that total sitting at 25.5, and I want to bet under it. But then I think first game of the season. I also think about how Ward doesn't cage. It's more anecdotal than hard stats, but it kind of seems like as he's transitioning from box to field, it maybe takes him a couple weeks to get under his belt. So that. And just these 2 high-powered offenses. I mean, when you saw the Water Dogs roster, did your guys not like pop your eyes out of your head like I did. I was like, holy shit, this roster is absolutely stacked. And this is also a game that if you go back to 2021, you mentioned how teams are going to be playing twice in a weekend, and we'll talk a little bit more about that with Atlas. But going back to 2021, that was actually the first time we saw sports lines offered. So a lot of the time when I'm referencing season long and season over season trends, it's going back to 2021 because that's when I started tracking the over in this game. 4-1 to the over. They've only ever played to the under one time. So when I add all that, I crossed that off my list. Man, this game's a pick 'em, and I think that's what it should be. You know what I mean? Because last year before the Archers really just kind of had the Water Dogs number, they had never beaten the Water Dogs before last season. So it was the complete changing of the guard. The Archers finally got it done. I'd like to say our Water Dogs get it done, but I think the lean still would be to be the under, but I didn't have anything I bet in this game. Anything stand out to you boys?
I think for me, the interesting part, just from a game standpoint, is going to be how the Water Dogs face-off approach goes when they cut
Good
Alex
point.
Stathakis. Obviously, we found out today as we had press conferences that he still has school to finish up, and that's a big part of why Coach Tierney decided to leave him off the 25-man roster. But it's going to be interesting the approach they take. You know, there's pictures rolling out from the Water Dogs beat writer Wyatt Miller showing Eli Gobrick with a pole and a short stick. Is he going to go back to the face-off stripe? Is it going to be Zach Currier most of the time? Is it going to be Ryan Conrad, who we've seen take face-offs? I think that's a huge part of it going up against somebody as big of a force as Mike Sisselberger.
For me, it's more about, these offenses. If you're betting on this game, 1,000% hit the over. Like you said, it's 4-1, and I don't think that changes this time around. Sure, you have, two of the top three goalies in the league playing tomorrow, but guys are going to be letting it fly, and a lot of goals go down in these games every time they play. Either hit the over or just go straight to player props. That's where the real money is in this game is, guys hitting for, over 2.5 points, or, over 3 goals, that kind of stuff. That's where you're going to see that. I would expect both of these offenses to kind of be sharing the ball around and looking to get a lot of guys involved.
Yeah, and the other thing, KB, last thing I'll say on this is, it almost feels like, hey, you look at what the championship ended up being, you take the 1.5, but the minus 160 to do that, like, I feel like you just try and pick the winner. So if you want to do that, I would take the spread out of it and just end up taking the money line. If you're a parlay guy, you could throw that 1.5 for the Archers in there. But hey, it's just I didn't see much jumping off the page at me in this one.
Yeah, looking across, a bunch of sports books just to, shop those odds. Pretty much everywhere has it as a pick 'em, whether it's even odds on the money line or, a little wavering here and there. This is truly going to be a coin flip game, and it's the first time we get to see Bill Tierney coaching at the professional level too. So we'll see what tricks he has in his bag in his first, game as a head coach.
Yeah, and total 2-pointers in this one, to speak to what DJ said about guys letting it rip. Total 2-pointers, the over of 1.5 is sitting at minus 162. So the odds are saying if you want these guys to let it rip, you're going to be eating chalk to do it. So the odds expect kind of what we're going to be seeing here. So when those two things line up, sometimes you're just not going to find value as far as betting goes.
Then we got the matinee game. The final game on Saturday is that Boston-New York rivalry kicking off as the Atlas have their homecoming weekend. It's the Cannons and Atlas. Atlas coming in, bunch of new faces on that offense. Obviously, they're going to have Connor Schellenberger up there once he gets back from the Tuaraton Awards. But a lot of new faces for this Atlas team, and the Cannons coming off a Champ Series victory. There's a lot of expectation, I think, for this Cannons team going into this year under Brian Holman for a second year. What are you looking at here, Dan, with the Atlas homecoming game against the Boston Cannons?
Well, the problem for the Boston Cannons, I think it's not going to be as bad as it was for the Chrome last season, but we'll find out. Like, is the whole championship series curse a thing? Because think of all the expectations the Chrome had simply because what we saw in that championship series. It's a completely different brand of play. It's a completely different brand of lacrosse. So I feel like this Cannons team, because of the success that they had last year in the regular season, I don't think they'll be a bit as bad with that. But they're coming in with all the expectations. And Atlas is a team who was holding all of those expectations and just fell apart last year. Interestingly enough, if you just look at what happened last season, taken in a vacuum, Atlas ended up just behind Chrome as the second worst team against the spread and straight up. They only covered 3 games last year, whereas the Cannons, they were regularly blowing people out. I mean, 8-4, that was second best in the year against the spread. I think there's some potential revenge here coming in for Atlas. So we talked about, finding value here, finding value there. I only have to lay, what is it, -128, -130 if you shop around to take a goal and a half with the Atlas. That's what I'm doing. That's something that I bet myself. Maybe I'll sprinkle a little bit on that money line. Last year, if you're looking at this total too, last year, all 3 of these games played towards the over. This is also sitting at 25.5. I basically painted across the board. I don't know if I want to go over that on the first week. So for me, boys, I think the Atlas homecoming weekend, they could definitely do a lot to get some wind in their sails. I don't know if they win outright, but I think Atlas is a live enough dog for me to take that 1.5 and only have to lay -130 to do it. So this is something I bet myself. Give me the Atlas. Lock it in at +1.5.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, we had our press conferences as we record this on Thursday, and Coach Pressler said, the biggest aspect he thinks from last season to this season is he missed out on free agency when he got hired. He got hired after free agency started, so he came in late, didn't really get to build the roster that he wanted to build. Now he's gotten a chance to put his fingerprints all over this roster, which we've seen through the draft, through free agency. They brought back some key pieces like Jeff Teat, like Brian Costabile, and they're adding to what everyone's calling the UV Atlas with those Virginia boys. It's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out once they're all together. But I do agree. I think the Atlas can definitely give the Cannons, a little bit of a scare here. There's some interesting aspects of that Cannons team. Jack Keelty out for the season for the Cannons, so that's something to pay attention to. Obviously, their defense is stacked to the gills after free agency, adding Garrett Epple and trading for Bryce Young. But I think this game is going to be very interesting, especially when it comes to, faceoffs. We know possessions matter, and when you got Trevor Baptiste, scooping up those ground balls for you, that's a big piece, I think, to what this Atlas offense is going to be able to do.
Spot on. Yeah, couldn't agree. And the other thing is, too, is in the offseason, when you saw that Gray was getting jettisoned, you were probably like, oh, shit, what's going to happen? And then the draft happened. And then you add a Colin Schellenberger. So, Sir Connor Schellenberger. So, I honestly think, and the proof will be in the pudding, but I think just stylistically, he's a guy who's going to fit in a little bit more. Like, it always just seemed like there was just not a cohesiveness on that Atlas offense, even when they were flying around, even when they were playing at their best. I think Schellenberger fits in a little bit more with being able to distribute a little bit more while also finding shots for himself. So the thing that I saw, and I'm not going to lay -174, but a parlay piece for you, like Connor Schellenberger over a half. That's all. We're asking him to score 1 goal in his debut. I mean, that seems pretty easy to me. That seems really easy to me. But it's -174 for a reason. So, hey, a good parlay piece, maybe looking at that Schellenberger total goals over.
I want to touch on this in the second game.
I like that.
This first Atlas game isn't too exciting to me. I kind of think
you learn a lot about him too.
Yeah,
in the first game.
I think
there's
a couple like touch pieces in the second game that a lot of people probably aren't privy to.
Ooh.
So we'll move to, before we get to the Atlas, second game. The first game on Sunday is Carolina Chaos and the formerly known as Chrome Lacrosse Club Denver Outlaws making their return to pro lacrosse. This game screams smash the over to me. It's the lowest over-under total of the weekend at 22.5. I mean, those Chaos boys can score. They've got a young offense with the Denver Outlaws, and they're adding Brennan O'Neill to it. I mean, that's my play of the weekend, honestly, is smashing that over 22.5.
Yeah, and I mean, the reason why it's 22.5, there's one single reason, and it's the dude who's in net for the Carolina Chaos, right? This is the guy who every single week, whatever game Blaze Reardon is in, is going to have the lowest total. It happened all year last year. It's going to happen this year. I just think there's so many question marks around it. And for what it's worth, when they were sitting with those low totals, 22.5, there was only one time a Chaos game had 22.5 last year. It went under 23.5 with regularity. It was, what is that, 5-2 to the over at 23.5. So, you're looking at a nice number here. You've already seen the total tick up over at the Green Book. Now they're hanging 23. Hopefully be getting some push potential there. But I'm with you. Like, I expect goals in this game. And, sure, Blaze Reardon notwithstanding, Sean Scanoni's a pretty good goalie too, but the inconsistencies for him is the major question mark. So you got Josh Byrne on the field. You got a major question mark. What are we going to see in Knobloch? So I'm with you. The first look for me going to be over that 22.5. I know sometimes people say low for a reason. I just think every total this weekend, I would have set them at 23.5. So when they're high, it makes me want to look towards the under. When you're low like this, it makes me want to look towards the over. You're getting even money at it. So that's something that I would sprinkle. But actually, my best bet for the weekend comes in this one, a player prop. I'm taking the first overall, guys. I mean, we'll circle back when we get to it, but first overall pick, over 2.5 points. He can score, he can assist. It's plus 118 on the blue book. I'm slamming Brennan O'Neill over 2.5 total points in his debut. That's the one that jumped off the board at me.
I mean, my thing in this game is I kind of think maybe the under does hit in this one.
Okay.
Because when you look at these two teams, they both have two goalies that are very strong and solid in their game, and you know what you're gonna get from them. And then their defenses are the returning parts of their team and are the strong parts of their team, whereas their offenses are just getting together, just gelling together. Both actually have new systems as they have new guys coming into the fold. It may take a little bit of a wrinkle, and if these defenses and goalies get hot, there's going to be a lot less goals scored than people think.
And to your point, DJ, if you even just go back to what happened last year, I know that they have a new team name, but 80%, 8 out of the 10 games the Chrome ran out of that tunnel because of how bad that offense was last year, they all went under. 8-2 to the under last season. I just think with what they did in the offseason and obviously adding a huge piece, a generational type piece, some people want to call it like the LeBron James as far as a prospect goes type piece that you're getting in Brennan O'Neill. I have to think there's got to be some positive regression for that offense. However, when you're looking for offensive output, asking for it to come against this defense and this goaltender, I could definitely see the case being made here for the under. But it's opening weekend. Who wants to bet unders, guys? We want overs. Like let's get this action going.
Don't get me wrong. I want to see as many goals as I can possibly see, but
I get your case for sure.
Realistically thinking, and it's changed my mind so much. Having 3 years now coaching. You look at the game differently when you see it from the sideline. So that always plays into my head too. And like thinking very beginning of the season, you have your freshmen coming in, they're getting put into the system, but they don't know it yet. You have your guys returning that didn't pick up a stick for the last 2 months. You have all that stuff going. So that always plays in my mind. Whereas like defense is like, sure, you're a little rusty, but if you can communicate, you're good. That's kind of the base layer is communication. Kind of everything else stems from there. So these are two defenses that communicate very well due to their captains and kind of how they run that down there. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a defensive battle break out.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen this Chaos team just do things that most teams in the PLL don't traditionally do, and it's going to be interesting to see them now with a new look offense as well.
Yeah.
Led by Josh Byrne still, but a lot of new pieces around him to see what they're going to be able to do offensively and put those goals up. And as we all know, goal differential matters in this league. So Andy Tower's not afraid to score those last-minute goals to pump up the goal differential there. Final game of the weekend, Sunday at 3:30 p.m. It's the Maryland Whipsnakes and New York Atlas for their second game. it's going to be interesting to watch, like we said earlier, how Atlas kind of respond after playing a game the previous day, especially when in 2021 you had that gap day between your first and second game. You traditionally played on the Friday and then you played on the Sunday. Now it's back to back, so it's going to be fun to watch how these Atlas guys perform on a back to back. But Whipsnakes coming in, a lot of new look offense. The big shocker, obviously, this week was Will Manny got cut from training camp, and they got some new pieces in. Colin Heacock back with Matt Rambo and those Maryland boys. But how do you see this Maryland Whipsnakes New York Atlas matchup going down for an Eastern Conference showdown, Dan?
Well, we had a nice tease earlier from my man DJ, so I want to hear his thoughts on this one. But for me, this is one, and I feel like it's going to kind of be my trend throughout the year with these homecoming weekends, is I don't think, unless I really thought the line was going to go crazy in a different direction, I probably wouldn't bet this game until I see the first game of the weekend. Because also you don't want to be standing there. Jeff Teague gets injured. God, hopefully that doesn't happen, but he gets injured in the first game. You're standing there with an Atlas ticket and you're like, God, I look like an asshole holding this thing now. So, I think you could either you might lose a point or two, a number or two, if you're looking to back the Atlas, but I wouldn't bet this up until that point. But before, just pre-flop, I also want to bet the Atlas in this game. I want to take the Atlas plus the 1.5 in both matchups this weekend, simply because I think it sets up for them finally dispelling a lot of last year. They want to start this year on the right foot. And, I like getting that 1.5 back-to-back games. Again, anecdotally, guys, but if you go back to that 2021 when teams were playing 2 games on a weekend, if the team lost the first game, they were 5-2 straight up in game number 2. So you think of it as just like you don't want to lose both games in a weekend and you're ultra motivated. I think it would make me feel a little bit better if it wasn't against a team like the Whipsnakes, but it also, the Whipsnakes are the cardiac kids. If they win a game, they're probably going to win the game late by 1 goal. So I want to take Atlas plus the 1.5, but I'm going to wait until Sunday. So I'm not going to lock it as an official play, but that's the way that I would be betting this. I want to take the 1.5 with Atlas both games this weekend.
I mean, that's not a bad pick. What a lot of people don't know is that the rosters are a little bit different for the teams during their homecoming weekend, which we were just privy to this morning from Coach Pressler. Is they're actually granted, I think it's 21, maybe 22 on their rosters for the weekend to supplement, them playing back to back. So they have a few more guys that kind of, if a guy's like super tired, a guy gets hurt, whatever, they can shift that guy over and he's good to play. He's also been there all weekend, so he's been practicing his stuff as well with the team. So they're good to go. Or maybe you just see them use that to have fresh legs, whether a guy is tired or not. Teams are able to take advantage of playing another fresh team with some guys that are still fresh due to not playing the night before. So just keep an eye on that for like player props, but also, over-unders and picks, because you may get one squad one night and then a similar squad with, 2 or 3 new guys that are there to just boost and be fresh legs.
Yeah, I love that. And then last thing on this one too, KB, is like the Whips, I kind of alluded to them being, the cardiac kids or whatever. That's not just like a 1-game sample size or whatever. The 3+ years that we've had drawing on PLL trends and data, Whipsnakes as a favorite, they don't cover. 8-16 against the spread as favorites. So hearing what DJ said, it makes me like this 1.5 even more. But if the Atlas do come out, they do lay a stinker against the Cannons, they look bad, you might even get plus money or even money on the 1.5. So, plus 120, I'll probably sprinkle a little bit on the money line, but the number could get better. It might get a little bit worse, but it's not going to completely destroy any value that you're going to have on the home side, New York Atlas, come Sunday.
Yeah, that is going to be huge with the homecoming teams having those 2 extra players on a game day roster and, to supplement whether it's injury or whatever it may be, or a coach likes a better matchup with a different player. That's going to be interesting to watch as the season rolls out. Dan, other than your Brennan O'Neill over points total, do you have any other best bets for this weekend?
Yeah, the only other one, it has to go in before the season starts. I know it's 150, but you and I we were talking before the show. the Redwoods are going to win at least 4 games. Like, I know it's minus 150. I don't want to bet a future that's minus 150, but that's crazy to say my boys. Now California's my home state. I still love my Water Dogs, don't get me wrong, but they're throwing some shade on my guys in the backyard here. California Redwoods over the 3.5. That's insane. Over 3.5 regular season wins. They're going to win 4 games. If they don't, you guys can blast me the whole rest of the season here. But California Redwoods, that's the other best bet for this season.
Yeah, when I saw you post that out, I was like, let me go and see where this is at. I got it minus 135.
Yeah, and now it's up to 150. Like, it's only getting higher. And then the Blue Book opened it up. They opened it at 4.5. They opened it at the right number. That number's a good number. 3.5. You're disrespecting my boys, KB.
Yeah, it made no sense. We were talking about a pre-show where this team got younger, they got faster, they still have pretty much their entire offense returning from last year with their top guys in goal scoring and assists, and they still have one of the best face-off guys to get them possession. So the Redwoods not winning 4 games this year, I think, would be a generational shocker when it comes to the 2024 PLL season. Dan, this is going to be awesome every single week having you on the show. And let everybody know where they can follow along with you. Dan's going to also be part of our our Pick'em segment when we put the graphics out. So we'll have Dan's picks for just straight up money line type stuff. And then we'll also post our best bets every single week. But Dan, let everybody know where they can follow you, check out all the shows you're on, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, you know I stay busy, boys, but I'm always going to find some time to hop on here with the OTB gents. You can follow me on Twitter across all socials, NeubyTalks, NeubyTalks. That's where you can find me. That's where I'll be. And hopefully that's where we'll be posting winners all year long. Appreciate you, boys. Let's get this money this weekend.
Let's get it. Stay tuned every single week on OTB for weekly winners with the boys. And can't wait to be talking about all the wins next week. Shout out to Newbie, my boy Dan, our guy, who will be joining us every single week on the show to talk gambling with the PLL. Excited to follow the trends, put a little cash in our pockets, if you will. And, of course, you guys listening at home to put some cash in your pockets. But stay tuned for weekly winners. We may just name it beer money. Who knows? But, Deej, it's college championship, put a bow on it season. And it's brought to you by our pals over at Tomahawk Shades, the best small batch eyewear in the game. From sunglasses to blue light glasses and prescription lenses, Tomahawk Shades is offering an affordable product for a fraction of the big eyewear companies, and it is better quality than those big eyewear companies. Fraction of the price. I've got some sunglasses right here that if I showed these to you right now at home, you would think these are some designer brand, and then you turn around, bang, Tomahawk logo right on there. They are truly the most comfortable sunglasses and blue light glasses I've ever put on my face. I wear them all the time when I'm out and about. I'll be wearing them this weekend in Albany. I'll be wearing the blue light glasses when I'm editing this episode and when I'm watching lacrosse on TV when I'm not out on the road. Deej wears them when he's coaching. They are truly the best sunglasses, and Deej can vouch for that.
Absolutely. They're amazing sunglasses, keep the eyes protected, and allow me to yell at guys even though they don't know that I'm yelling at them because they can't see my eyes. But also absolutely rip dingers on my goalie as I'm warming them up. So it doesn't matter what you're doing when you're looking into the sun. It's almost like the sun isn't there because the sunglasses do their job.
And they are beyond affordable. And it's awesome because the company is owned by 2 former lacrosse players, along with 2 former Major League Baseball stars. Those lacrosse players, you might have heard of them. Kyle Harrison, one of, if not DJ's favorite player of all time, and Chris Hogan, Super Bowl champion, played in the PLL, no big deal. You guys can go to TomahawkShades.com or download the Tomahawk Shades app in the App Store or Google Play Store. And when you go to checkout, when your cart's filled to the gills with those awesome and affordable sunglasses and blue light glasses and maybe even prescription lenses if you need them, use our code USP at TomahawkShades.com or in the Tomahawk Shades app, and you get 25% off your order from our friends at Tomahawk Shades. They've been rocking with us for like 4 years now, guys. Companies don't do that. Like, they can throw you to the wayside whenever. Tomahawk Shades has been with us through and through since 2020, right when the world was about to shut down. They said, yeah, we're going to get on board with this podcast network and just support you guys through and through. And they are truly the best sunglasses in the game. TomahawkShades.com, or download the app in the App Store or Google Play Store. Use code USP for 25% off your next order. Deej, we were in the building on Sunday and Monday. Shout out, no free shout outs to Tick Pick for getting us in the building. And we have some new and returning national champions. Your D3 champions, Tufts University, take home the dub after failing to in 2023. Adelphi takes D2. And Notre Dame goes back to back. It was a wild weekend. It was a fun weekend. There was rain. There was travel expeditions. Shout out CFO Margie getting us there. But it's always great to be at Lincoln Financial Field for any event and to be able to get into the building for less than $50 for the each of us on 2 separate days is fantastic. And it was some good times, and Notre Dame just was playing a different brand of lacrosse at the end of the day than Maryland was able to muster up in that championship game.
Yeah, I mean, first time in a while we've seen the D2 and D3 games be better than the D1 game. When you look at the first game we got, which was looking, Friday, Saturday night, Saturday afternoon and into the evening, 2 amazing, semifinal games. Maryland and Virginia go at it toe-to-toe the entire time. Maryland able to squeeze that one out. And then Notre Dame being themselves, absolute domination, setting off the weekend in the fashion we needed, which was 2 very exciting games in the D1 semis. And then the action just continued on Sunday, in which we saw Tufts and RIT come out and just light it up. I mean, the first 3 quarters was nothing but action back and forth. We had a tie game, 13-all headed into the 4th quarter, and Tufts showed why they were in the championship game for the 2nd year in a row and why they deserved to be national champions, because they just dominated. They took over the game and they put their foot down and really put the Tigers away in the last few minutes of the 4th quarter and then really started to celebrate. But it was just an all-out battle from
That was the
both
best
sides.
game of the weekend, in my opinion, that we got to watch, just from start to finish, and like the back and forth aspect.
I'm battling between that and the D2 game, Adelphi and Lenore Ryan. And the only reason I'm battling with it is because a very similar game where we saw 2 teams come in. Lenore Ryan once again back after being in it last year and winning it last year. Adelphi trying to return back to the top. 2 teams that battled back and forth. There were defensive battles early on in the game, as low scoring. Then the offenses picked up and brought it back in the action. But the thing that has me weighing this is that this game was closer toward the end. It was an 8-10 game that ended up being the final. And it was a 2-3 goal game pretty much the entire game. It never got beyond that. If it wasn't, tied or 1 goal, whatever the case, never got really beyond 2 or 3. And you saw the intensity, you saw the fight, you saw the grind. It was there the entire game. And Lenore Ryan still had a shot with a few minutes left, whereas with a few minutes left, RIT hadn't scored in the 4th quarter. They finally get one, and you think they're kind of going to make a comeback, and then Tufts scores a couple more and kind of just ends it. So that kind of has me on the wayside, but definitely D2 and D3 were better than D1. When you look at the championship game Monday, I mean, Notre Dame did what they've done all year, dominate. They kind of felt their competition out and let Maryland hang around and feel like they had a chance in the beginning of the game, which is exactly what they did the first time they played them way back in March at our Lotta Stadium in South Bend. Kept it kind of close and kind of just burst it out and took control of the game. It's exactly what they did here, and you could see it. Every aspect of the team was clicking on all cylinders, from the attack all the way down to goalie. The younger guys were getting in and showcasing some skill. So this Notre Dame team is going to be good for a while, but you could feel the energy at all 3 levels from the fans on both sides, and the winning team celebrated like they'll never celebrate before. And that's one of the most exciting feelings, is to be able to see a team celebrate. You don't even have to be a part of it. Just to see these teams celebrate that national championship the way they do is unbelievable.
Yeah. We also got to get Tufts coach on the show.
So down for that.
It's got to happen.
So down for that.
Coach D'Onofrio, we need you on the show for sure. Tufts and RIT won the logo matchup of the weekend for sure. Those two logos were beautiful. The jersey matchup, I think, was electric. As our guy Jordy said, you don't get that in D1. You don't get orange versus brown in D1. It was a super entertaining Sunday for sure. The rain delay on Monday was crazy, but made it well worth it at the end. And Notre Dame just proved why they were the best team in the country. And you don't typically get to see a Notre Dame football player for less than $40
ever.
Shout out
Not
to Jordan
typically.
Faison,
That is an ever thing. You don't get to do that ever.
Shout out to Jordan Faison. Also, welcome on the show whenever he wants. It was quite the time. Did you see Coach Tillman with Pat Cav?
I did not.
He said, "Can you graduate already so I don't have to see you ever again?"
Yeah, I did see that
and then,
clip.
I don't know who it was, but they said, "Oh, he's coming back next year. He's going to wear number 15." And then Tillman was like, I'm retiring.
Yeah, Pat Cav ain't coming back. And it's going to be exciting to see how they supplement that guy being gone and what Notre Dame is able to come up with. Excited to see what Maryland has coming up for the next few years. And, the Penn States, the Syracuses, the Michigans. College lacrosse is in a great space. Johns Hopkins as well. Denver, Georgetown. College lacrosse is continuing to go up. So I'm just really excited to see where that goes. And until next year, maybe we'll end up in Boston, maybe not. We'll see.
Maybe
about
if a
that.
company really wants to sponsor the ever-living shit out of us so we can afford a flight to Boston, that would be great.
But before we get out of here, truly for the year, let's.
I also wanted to mention, because as we record this on Thursday night, Tuaraton winners were announced. Speaking of, Pat Cav takes it home on the men's side of things, and it begs the question: does the Tuaraton committee and NCAA lacrosse just hate goalies?
I mean, no, it's just
Pat Cav absolutely earned it for sure.
Yeah, but it's just one of those.
Earned one for his career, but it is one of those things where it's like, damn, Liam had such an unreal season, first goalie nominated since 2011, and he doesn't win it.
It's an offensive award that comes down to stats, and it'll change maybe one day, but I'm not going to hang my hat on it too much. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Liam knows how good of a player he is. He was given multiple defensive awards, All-Americans, all conferences, and
an appearance on the Pat McAfee show,
and national championships. So he's gotten pretty much every award you can, other than the Tuaraton. So I don't think it's as big of a deal for him. He's drafted in the first round. He's going to play as a pro. So I think he's going to overlook it, but it would be nice to see the defensive side of the ball get a little more respect for what they do. But we kind of know how the Tuaraton goes.
Also, TLN, why are we doing my boy Matt Brandow dirty like that? Poolski, what are we doing? We can be nice. We don't need to say that Matt Brandow didn't score any points in the tournament. Let's be nice. I can't wait for Matt Brandow to score his first goal this weekend, though.
Yeah, I already know. You're going to be cooking.
He's my guy. I'm all in on Matty B.
Do your thing, dog.
Dude,
I'm not opposed to Matty B.
His interview with RJ just completely sold me.
Matty B and Mikey B, dog.
Monsters Inc. always plays. It always plays.
We're rolling. But yeah.
And then Izzy Skane wins it back-to-back on the women's side. Enough said.
I don't think there was a question there. I think it was just like Queen of the North when she was here. Like, we just know who the best player is on the women's side of the game. But, Syracuse has always got some dogs, so there's definitely some women there that could have, shot out and done something. Of course, Boston College winning the national championship had, some dogs over there for them as well. And then, Maryland's always a good squad. You got Florida down south and tons of other teams over on the women's side that continue year in and year out to ball out. So it's going to be exciting now that Izzy's leaving the game to kind of see who picks up the torch next. But there was absolutely no question that was going to happen, and I have already committed to going to a Northwestern women's game next year because I have to get out to that stadium. And, I love the city of Chicago anyway. So, I'll be boots on the ground at Northwestern in that beautiful stadium at some point next season. So find somebody to replace Miss Skane, please, and make me happy.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken... No, I am mistaken. That's not the team I was thinking about. But yeah, and Izzy caps it off being the number 1 overall pick in, Unleashed and Athletes Unlimited. So congrats to her and to Pat Cav, and we'll be seeing Patty Cav lacing it up with the Boston Cannons this weekend, and very excited to see him, even more up close and personal than we did on Monday. But for Portal Jones, it is it is portal season.
It is, in fact, portal season. Let's hop in.
Hubba lubba wub dub.
Whole lot's going to be going on.
Hey, Morty, it's portal season.
Whole lot's going to be moving around this summer.
I know we always ask for illustrations, but truly, if there's somebody out there who is in the illustration game and can draw DJ in the art style of Rick and Morty looking like Rick as Portal Jones, please slide in our DMs. Please, because we will use that artwork. We will commission it from you for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But we need a Portal Jones piece of art to utilize for the show. And if you or someone you know can design something in that Rick and Morty art style as Deej, we'll send you photos as something to look off of to make it happen. But we need Portal Jones to come to life.
I can schedule a whole photo shoot if you need me to give you good content to go with. So just let me know. That's not a problem. I know multiple photographers. When I get back home,
let us know if you can get Swifty.
Sure, I can get that done for free. Yeah, if you can get Shifty,
we gotta get Swifty. Oh yeah,
we gotta get Swifty. Save the earth. Nah.
Show me what you've got.
Let me finish this up before y'all get tired of us. The portal has officially opened and it is moving. Coming over from D3 Ursenius, going to Canisius is Jeff Douglas on the defensive side. Corey Capri at mid, transferring from Yale, headed over to the Blue Hens of Delaware. Graham Blake leaving Harvard at attack to hopefully pick up one of those attack spots at Duke. Aiden Blake leaving Cornell as a mid to supplement the Duke squad. And Paul Wethington, short stick D-mid, leaving Princeton for the Blue Devils. Jonathan Singer, a goalie from Ursenius, heading up for the D3 level to Hofstra. Drew Kesnich, interesting, leaving Detroit Mercy to make his way down to play for John Galloway and the Finns down in Jacksonville. John Hopkins is going to be getting a couple guys from Yale, midfielder Jack Monfort and short stick D-mid Patrick Hackler. What a name for a D-mid. Hackler. Yeah, Pat gonna hack you, so you better get moving. and then they're going to get a D3 faceoff guy from Dickinson down in Ohio, John McKee. Maryland, Noah Armitage is going to be coming over as a midfielder from Stony Brook. My Wolverines getting 2 D3 guys, one from Wesleyan and DJ Dixon, a midi.
That's a name.
Isn't it?
That's a name.
Isn't it? An attackman coming from Bowdoin, Will Byrne. Lucas Stanat, a midfielder from Princeton, and also going to get an LSM from Princeton, Pace Billings. All going to be Wolverines this upcoming year. NJI team, one of the hottest teams to start the year this year, had everybody buzzing as getting a John Hopkins transfer in the midfield and a Russell Marr.
They're also getting a kid from South Jersey that plays for Bryce Young's team, not next year, but the following year.
Solid. And then North Carolina getting a midi from Harvard and Andrew O'Barry, an attackman from Cornell and Spencer Wortham. Nick Dupius, an attackman from Stony Brook.
That's a super villain name.
Isn't it? Dubious.
Dubious. It sounds like something that Doofenshmirtz would say.
The dubious Perry the platypus.
It's the dubious Nator. Nator.
The double Nator, yes. The dubious Nator 3000. Michael G. Anfricaro coming over from Princeton to step into the pipes for Carolina. And
Paisan in the pipes.
And he's a beast, dude. The dude's an absolute beast. Greg Campsey, an LSM from Harvard, going to join the two-time defending champ Notre Dame Irish at LSM. Joseph Junkerks? Jungerkiss?
Jungerkis?
Y'all know how to say that. I don't. Short stick D-mid from Princeton, going to be a Scarlet Knight next year. And one last D3 transfer. You're going to love this one. It is a guy that's going to be playing for a Philadelphia team in a couple of years. A defenseman for the Wings is going to be playing some D1 lacrosse for someone else that's going to love this. Brian Knows Lax at Syracuse. D3 transfer from RIT, Mike Grace.
Bring him to me. I watched him play this weekend. I'm sold. Mike Grace needs to be the number 1 overall pick in the NLL draft this year.
Mike Grace was absolutely fantastic for RIT in that championship game. Kept them close in that game.
Huge.
Made a lot of great plays. Was always in the right spot defensively. Often moved up to the wing to do a double pull thing and get in on the ground balls there. And was great in the clearing game. And was able to push the pace on offense as well. So a guy that's going to not only be great at the D1 level for Syracuse and ball out there, but also a guy that's going to do well in the NLL and maybe even get a chance in the PLL depending on how things shake out. But that is what we have
here too. I don't know if they were on your list or not, but Ty Sanders tweeted them out today. Duke's Charles Balsamo. Was he on your list?
No, that is new.
He is officially in the portal and designated with a no contact tag, according to multiple sources. The lefty posted 20 goals and 11 assists as a freshman and 7 goals, 9 assists as a sophomore. Excluding fifth years, I believe this would be Duke's first D1 to D1 transfer under Dino.
So that is why it's not on the list. This list that I have here, because just FYI for everybody out there, Inside Lacrosse has not put out their transfer portal for 2024 yet. So I'm looking at Lacrosse Bucket, which only has commits and confirmations in terms of where guys are going. It doesn't have the full list of guys that are in the portal, which explains why Balsamo wasn't there. But I did know he was in the portal and hadn't selected a spot yet, but did not know he was on no contact. So that's interesting as well.
Ty also tweeted that Maryland attackman Eric Maliver has entered the portal as a grad transfer. Maliver, apologies. He's in the portal as a grad transfer per source, posting 15 goals, 22 assists as a senior. The former top 10 recruit racked up 105 points in 3 seasons in College Park, missing all of 2023 after putting up 48 points for the national champs in 2022. And then Fairfield lefty attackman Bryce Ford is headed to Maryland as a grad student, confirming his plans this afternoon on Thursday, according to Ty. The two-time second-team All-CAA pick put up 39 goals this spring and finished his time at Fairfield with 162 points, split with 102 goals, 60 assists. So those are from Ty Sanders, who, again, another person we would love to have on this podcast. He's now the national analyst for Prep Lacrosse, formerly at Inside Lacrosse, but would love to have Ty on the show. But those are some that I picked up while I was perusing the timeline today while we were in between pressers. Portal Jones, another year in the books as far as college game, another one starting for the portal. I'm telling you, this is going to be an exciting portal season, and then college lacrosse next year, like I said earlier, is just continuing to get better. So I'm really excited for the hands that it's in. That is going to do it for us on this episode. Make sure you guys are following us across the socials at OTBLaxPod on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Threads. Check out Underground Sports Philadelphia on LinkedIn as well. Follow Deej on Twitter at SCS_NextGreat. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Subscribe to the pod, Apple, Spotify. Leave those 5-star reviews. Keep subscribing, guys. We are poised for our biggest PLL season yet, and we are very excited for what's to come. As you guys are listening to this, I am going to be in a meeting with arguably our biggest meeting in pod history to date, which is very exciting. So we'll have some big news potentially coming out this weekend if everything gets signed, sealed, and delivered. So stay tuned for that. But subscribe to the pod. Apple, Spotify. Subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel, youtube.com/@undergroundsportsphiladelphia. That is where you get full video episodes of this show every week, full video episodes of every show on our network, clips, shorts, live streams, original video content. It's all on there. Smash that like button, ring the bell icon, leave a comment down below, your thoughts on everything we discussed. Leave your picks in the comment section. Maybe we get the comment section picks tallied up for the entire year if you leave a comment. And, of course, our summer vlog series will be on the Outside the Box podcast YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/@OTBLaxPod. Subscribe over there to see all the behind the scenes of what's going down when DJ and I are on the road this year. And maybe when we're at home doing stuff, too, we'll just vlog ourselves at home and, take a picture of each other while we're on the press conferences on Zoom and be like, haha, we're here. But all of our vlog content is going to be on that channel. youtube.com/@OTBLaxPod. Get your merch at phiapparel.co. Use code underground for 10% off your merch orders. And if you're going to be in Albany this weekend, holla at your boys. We would love to see you. Love to link up with the peeps that are in Albany in the capital region. And looking forward to another PLL summer with OTB. This has been episode number 325 of the award-nominated, honorably mentioned, number 9 NCAA ranked, and of course viewable on YouTube, Outside the Box podcast, the official podcast for lacrosse on the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network. For Deej, for Dan, I'm KB. Enjoy this weekend of lacrosse. We'll be coming at you live from Albany. But until then, enjoy your weekend, everybody, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Peace.